So what I want to talk about today is 5.7 Hemi exhaust manifolds. Now I've looked and looked and looked all over YouTube for how-to videos, not so much as a how-to, but to see what kind of trouble I'm getting myself into. I've worked as a mechanic off and on all my life, but it's been mostly heavy-duty trucks. And automotive, I'm more into stuff like that than I am this new stuff. So I watch the videos more as a reference to see what I'm getting into. And what I've discovered is that your videos are all for half tons. And they don't pertain to this, hardly at all. Some of the steps do, but not all of them. If you're one of the dumbasses like me, who bought, where is it? A 1-ton Dodge with a Hemi in it. Now, when it comes time to do these exhaust manifolds, you're going to be hating life. So last spring, I did the passenger side on this. It was tough. It was tough because the frame on these heavy duties are bigger than the frames on the half tons. So if you watch the half ton videos, I watched one where this guy just, and I bought the same kit that he has. I got this Lyle exhaust stud kit for these stinking Hemis. And when you watch his video, no problem. He got right in there with, put his kit on, put his bushings in, grabbed his drill, knocked the bolts right out. Not on this. Can't get a drill in there. Not happening. I did wind up on that passenger side. I went to a hardware store and bought a drill extension with a 90-degree head on it. And it worked, but I busted off probably about 4 bits per bolt. And I had to pull 4 bolts out of that thing. And yeah, it was a job. So now I'm doing the driver's side, and so I watched a couple of videos like, what am I getting myself into here? Well, I don't want to say they lied, but all they talked about was a half ton. And one of the things with the half ton that they don't tell you is this. On heavy duty, well, at least my heavy duty, the 1-ton, there's a big old freaking ABS control module sitting right there on the spring tower. you can't get in there. I mean, you can get your mitts in there and get the top bolt out, but you can't get, I don't know if you can see it. Let me move this light. But like there, for the top bolt on that exhaust port, you can't get to that. So the only thing you can get to from right here is your 2 bolts to the exhaust pipe, your exhaust flange right there. There's the only things that you can get to. You can get to the nuts. If the little thin metal tabs break, you can get to the nuts. Other than that, you got to go underneath to pull them out, to pull those bolts out. And you can get the top bolt on that last port from right here. Now, if you go to this side, it can be done, but it is a bitch. You can get to the 2 bolts on the first exhaust port from right here. I hope you're a contortionist because you need to bend. The rest of the bolts you have to get from down here underneath. You got to do it from the bottom side, or you got to do it from the top side. Whoops. But you ain't going to sit there on your little Harbor Freight tool, on your little Harbor Freight seat, and get up in there from the freaking wheel well. Oh, and something else I forgot to tell you about. So, now like I mentioned, the frames on these heavy duties are a lot bigger than on the half tons. You also have some big old framework up in here behind the fender. You see this that I'm tapping with the light? That son of a gun right there? That will make you bleed. Don't ask me how I know. So it's not like you can get your head up in here to even see what the hell you're doing. All right. I'm getting her done. I got that manifold out. It took me about 3 hours to get that exhaust manifold out. Yes, I hit a deer. I broke this. One of these days I'll get another one. I did replace the headlight, but yeah. So whenever you watch these how-to videos, and either of these professional shops, which I watched one, the guy didn't know what he was talking about. He tried to say that the bolts breaking off, which everybody calls them studs. They're not studs. They're bolts. However, there is a couple studded bolts that have the studs for your heat shield on. But they're all bolts. They're not studs. Quit calling them studs. But this guy claimed that the studs break and causes the manifold to warp. No. Jack, you're wrong. What happens is, and this is one of the reasons it took me so long to get this manifold off, is the manifold gets hot and warps. And that pops off the bolts. Now on my passenger side, it popped 3 bolts. On this side, it popped 2. But the 4 in the center of this were so freaking tight that it took some effort to get them loose. You know, and one of the reasons it took some extreme effort was because you just can't get down in there. This thing, I love this little tool. Battery operated ratchet. And there's not a whole lot of places in there that you can use this. So thank God Snap-on makes a nice flexi headed ratchet. Wouldn't be for that, I'd have been screwed. But no, the manifold gets hot and it warps and it pops the bolts. So that's what happens. And this manifold was warped so badly that the 4 center bolts were tight. So this is the one I just took off the driver's side, which by the way, it comes out the top, just in case you need to know. So if you look at that straight edge right there, look at that big old friggin' gap on that last exhaust port. And I don't know if the camera will show it, but there's a gap right there on that exhaust port as well. I mean, look at this. This manifold is warped. So that popped these 2 bolts. These 2 were extremely tight, and these 2 were extremely tight. So that's that. You know, if you want to tackle one of these on your own, Hey, half tons are easy. I did my wife's half ton passenger side yesterday before I did this one. You know, we own 2 Ram trucks, and both of them happened to pop manifold bolts. Hers was passenger, mine's driver. It took me 2.5 hours start to finish on hers to do the passenger side. I mean, the bolt broke off, sticking out about an inch from the head, so I just grabbed it with a pair of vice grips, spun it out, put the new manifold on, torqued her down to 18 foot-pounds, put the wheel well back in, the tire back on, and that thing was in and out of here in 2.5 hours. This thing has been in here since yesterday evening. I pulled the wheel well in the wheel, and I come out here at 6:30 this morning, and it's now about 10 a.m. and I just got this blasted thing off. So, yeah, if you want to tackle it yourself, half tons are easy. Half tons are a walk in the park. They're easy. Don't let anybody fool you. Get into these heavy duty bastards. Totally different story. Those how-to videos don't tell you how to do it. And I didn't do a how-to video on how to tear it down, and I'm not going to do a how-to video on how to put it back together. You can do it the same way I did. Figure it out. Y'all have a good day.